Obviously a tough loss for Complexity here. You were one BO3 away from winning and going into the playoffs. As an organization, obviously that's just become independent. How does that help? How does it hurt the organization at this point?
I mean, I can't really speak for the entire organization, but obviously for the CS team, it's still the furthest this team or this iteration of a roster has ever gotten in the major. Technically only one step behind, the previous, well, not the previous best, but the start out of 2018 roster, and obviously there was the very early roster in I think 2013 that made the semifinals. But it's still okay. Then it's the third best result this organization's ever had, which is still something to be proud of, and especially. Especially for this roster as well. Obviously, it's the furthest we've ever gotten, and we put up a great fight. We lost to three world-class elite teams: Mouse Sports, Vitality, and FaZe. Like, if you can't beat one of them, then you probably don't deserve to be in the quarterfinals. And I think this major is one of the toughest majors. All the elite teams are getting quite deep, and we have to be able to beat one of them if we want to get there. So it's it shows where we're at, and I hope that people recognize that we've done really well to get this far. But we're still very disappointed that we didn't get further, and that's hopefully the fuel for the fire.
I think there's going to be a lot of comments coming about how Complexity should have made the playoffs. Do you agree with the sentiment that it was almost an expectation for this roster to make the top 8?
Yeah, I think when we got to the point when we were 2-0, I think the playoffs was. I think for us, it was a lock. We should have had it. Mouse Sports clearly humbled us quite a lot. I think Vitality said to themselves, they had a rough day. As I was not playing full, and we definitely let that one slip. I think everyone will agree that we probably should have converted, if not the first two maps, Inferno and Vertigo, then we should have at least won Anubis. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of regret in the Vitality game. I think FaZe played really well. They didn't make any missteps really, and they punished a lot of our mistakes. So that's for us. But I think the Vitality game will be the one where you sit back and think, Jesus, man, we should have won that. We should have been 3-1. We should have been third seed in the playoffs. And yeah, it's hard, and it's that might have contributed to some of the. Some of the nervousness today, but at the end of the day, we need to keep getting to these positions where we need to get nervous and get used to it. And it's still a step forward for us in terms of how we performed and played against these elite teams. But there's a lot more work to do still, and I'm just happy that we get to have 3 or 4 weeks off now, or not off, but 3 or 4 weeks at home, because these guys have been on a world tour of incredible magnitude these last 3 months, and. It's going to be nice to just give them a break and come back full force for the rest of the season.
The addition of Elige last summer helped push this team towards the next level. Is it on the mind of Complexity at all right now to be looking at other potential upgrades?
I mean, it's a performance sport. We're always looking at being the best roster that we can field. But I think we've all been very clear, and it's something we've been very proud about, that we want to be a North American team. And we're not going to compromise that to just pick up the next best European player to just replace an American player. That doesn't make sense. So everything has to come with some thought to it. And we've just re-signed contracts with Grim, with Floppy, with TC, with JT. We believe in the roster of this team, or believe in this roster. We've signed multi-year contracts with all of them. So, I think that shows enough about where our commitment is and the support we have for our players. And, we see those guys as the future of this team. But, at the end of the day, we are in the performance business. And if there are players up and coming who we think can improve the team, then we will have to make those changes. But there were no changes incoming, at least directly off this roster, off this major.
And obviously this major, there are going to be a lot of comments and questions about how the roster should have performed, could have performed. I think, Hallzerk overperformed, I would say, at, some level for the RMR and for the major. Other players might not have necessarily stepped up. Is there going to be any plans or strategies on how to help those players become more consistent in high-pressure situations?
I'll address the Hallzerk thing now. I think Hallzerk's actually performing exactly how we expect him to perform. This is exactly what we expect from him, is just being a force of nature, and he has a rough time. Like, we're not gonna just brush over that. Like, he's had a really rough time at times in the past few months, maybe 6+ months. But what we're getting from him now is what we expect. He's obviously put out a lot out, and it's you could argue maybe slightly overperformed, but it's not something that we're not expecting from him. We're not expecting any player really to have to go and take over an entire game and drop 36 kills. Like that's never an expectation. But the way he's playing and the output he has is something that we do expect from him. But I think moving forward, I think we have a roster we're very happy with, and we have a coaching staff that needs to keep grinding, keep working with those players, and help them improve. And we need to improve our protocols, improve the way we read the game, and it's just it's an ongoing process, And but the thing is, every other team is doing the same thing. So, it's a game of cat and mouse, and we do have it harder than a lot of other teams that we play against. We live in the North American region. The practice isn't as good. I think I can ring that bell all the time. We spend a lot of time in Europe, but that also comes with the opposite effect that the guys are struggling with not struggling with the mental health, but it's tough to be away for long periods of time. It's tough to be on planes. It's tough to be on hotels. It's not an easy lifestyle for these guys, and finding a balance between being super hardcore and just spending your entire day in Europe grinding out Counter-Strike and actually having time to have some headspace and be with your family. It's not an easy job. So. We're continually trying to find that balance, and sometimes we push it a bit too far one way, and sometimes we push it a bit too far the other way. And it's never going to be easy for us, but we try our best, and we'll see how it goes.
Jason Lake was obviously here for the games for Complexity. Do you think his presence at all added any pressure, or did he try to help reassure the squad?
No added pressure. Jason is 100% supportive of us. If anything, probably relieves some pressure to know that you have an owner and a CEO who's so behind you, so humble, so willing to get down in dirty with us, and it's nice to play for Jason because he is that guy. The major has pressure. Like, we haven't added pressure because Jason's here. His presence has been very welcome, and it's nice for him to finally sort of be let off the leash and choose where he attends events, and hopefully he'll be at a few more events. I know he wanted to be with us in Sydney, but he couldn't get there, couldn't quite get it there. So hopefully the future's bright moving forward for Complexity as an organization and also the Counter-Strike team.
So what's next for this squad? I mean, obviously, this performance in your eyes is something to be happy with. Noticing that there are some improvements necessary, but going forward, you're going to have another few events coming up, and then towards the second half of the year, looking forward to Shanghai.
Yeah, so I can't speak too much about our upcoming schedule because there's a few complications, but I believe you've reported that there's a small issue with our attendance at IEM Chengdu. I can neither confirm nor deny if that's the truth, but we'll be going back to North America for at least a few weeks, and then, I think our next guaranteed event at least will be ESL Pro League in the end of April, start of May, and then from there we go to IEM Dallas, and we have a few more events after that. I think ESL is announced DreamHack Jönköping now, so I think I can say that, or ESL Challenger Jönköping, sorry. There's a few more events towards the end of the season, but I think right now the biggest focus for us is going back to North America, getting some rest, getting these guys just some time off, and trying to overcome the the hardships of the last few months. I know I've tweeted about it before, like the struggles that North American teams face, but just to give like a perspective, Floppy has spent like 74 days out of the like 84 days that's been in 2024 away from home. Like, he's had 10 days in the last 84 days away, like at home, and I think that's just insane. And that's the level that we have to be at to try and compete. And like, if you try any more, it's just like, what can you do? If you try any less, then we don't compete. So I just, giving these guys some time at home and just letting them live their lives a little bit away from Counter-Strike and then rebuild back into these events, I think is the biggest priority for us right now.
Do you think that makes it harder as an American team? You said that you wanted to keep with an American core, but to compete internationally, you are going to have to travel. Do you think that is a disadvantage for the kind of squad that you want to build compared to every other top European team?
Absolutely. That's all I have to say. Like, it's 100% harder to build a North American team that can compete internationally, especially now. In the past, definitely was possible, but these days, I think it's just the level of practice you can get, the amount of practice you can get. It's just not comparable to what you can get in Europe. You know, we can go to Europe and we can get some like tier 2, tier 3 scrims, and every single one will be infinitely better than pretty much every single North American scrim. The level of North American scrimming has definitely improved over the past few months. We've seen some good teams pop up, like good scrim practices, but they're just a little bit off the meta most of the time. And it's good to like practice and drive on our own things, but to like fully understand and appreciate like how our strategy and stuff is working, it's definitely not quite fully there yet. So, you know, there are signs that things are improving, but it's not comparable at the moment. And that's something that we feel very strongly about. I know Jason's mentioned a few times that we want to try and run some events, especially tie something around IEM Dallas and try and sort of reinvigorate North American CS. And, you know, we're sort of at the forefront of that now as the leading team in the region. So, you know, we need to do our part and, you know, especially things like qualify for events and make sure that the other teams can play the qualifiers and attend their own events. You know, it's doing our part now to just sort of be the flagship team and yeah, try and lift the region up a bit.
And kind of finally, you didn't really totally answer about Shanghai. Looking towards that next major, I mean, what's the goal for that? And with the new qualifications having 7 spots, is that going to be a boon towards complexity to know that there's an additional fail-safe?
I mean, if we don't qualify with 7 slots, I think that says a lot more about us than anything else. You know, even 5 slots, I think if we hadn't qualified, it would have been a disaster. So 7 slots would just be unthinkable to me, I think. You know, there's a lot of good teams, especially at Brazil. I think a lot of people underestimated Brazil, who were outside of Brazil, because there wasn't like a clear number 1, number 2 team from all their domestic competition. But it just turns out they were all just really good, which you know, is terrifying, but also, you know, fantastic for the region. They've done their part, and, you know, huge props to Brazil and the Brazilian teams these past week or 2 weeks, because, you know, they've done a huge favor, hopefully, for the entire region. And yeah, now we need the Americas teams who attend the next RMR to actually attend and show up, because I mean, honestly, like, that was actually the biggest disappointment for me from the RMR was, you know, there was at least 3 teams, I think, that should have been significantly better than they were, and I think they know who they are. I'm sure they're still reeling from it, to be honest, but yeah, I think we just need the North American teams to show up, because you know, like I said, like, we've played them. They're good. They're good teams. They have good fundamentals. They play well, good Counter-Strike, but they just haven't quite reached that level yet. And honestly, we thought they'd be a lot more competitive. We thought the North American teams would be sort of cleaning up some of the last 3 RMR slots after, you know, Furia, us, Liquid. Won't talk about them. Yeah, Liquid are another topic. But you know, honestly, we thought the North American teams would be taking some of those slots, and it was actually really disappointing to see how badly they ultimately played. But yeah, hopefully we can keep elevating them and getting them to these international events, and yeah, hopefully we can do something.
All right, Graham.